Hi, hello, and welcome back to another PYCAST. If you were with me earlier this afternoon, thank you so much for coming back. If you may have missed earlier this afternoon, there was a bonus PYCAST with my guest host, Hell Shrew. We were discussing local to us serial killers and true crime cases in our area. Um, just kind of going on the heels of things that have happened locally, and people, they think, well, I'm from a small town or something, this couldn't happen. But more than likely it does happen. You just might not be quite aware. So just, be vigilant. Keep your head on a swivel. Watch out for yourself. Be safe. Follow your intuition. It'll serve you well. Um, so we reported on 3 different specific cases that have been solved. One that has a pending trial, and it was just an interesting and fun afternoon discussing things like that. And we'll probably be doing some other type of streams in the future, where we're trying to figure a few things out. But one that we definitely will be doing that won't be hard to figure at all is the fact that there have been some serial killers that have been saved. Pretty odd concept. So we figured that would be a nice thing to discuss and cover and go into, especially since these cases are some very prolific, some of the most prolific serial killers in American history. However, speaking of prolific serial killers, one of my favorite fictional prolific serial killers is Dexter Morgan, and that's why we're here. We're discussing on this episode of PYCAST the Dexter New Blood episode 2. So here now is your spoiler alert. I am Pyretta Blaze. I am your host this evening, and I'm going to do a full and complete deep dive into the New Blood episode 2. So if you are watching now at this point and you have not seen episode 2 or episode 1 and you want to get caught up and you don't want any spoilers, please click away now and come back and see me on Thursday. I'll be back here Thursday, okay? Or find me over on YouTube. You don't want to see this until you're ready, okay? So you've been warned. I'm going to go ahead and get those notes pulled up here real quick. Because I go through and I actually make like extensive notes. Like I rewatch the episodes multiple times, make my notes, things like that. So this time it leaves us, or it picks up literally right where it left us. The same night that Dexter had returned from going to the bus stop to get Harrison, he's returned back to his cabin. We are opening with them sitting in the kitchen at the table there in Dexter's cabin inside. And it's kind of like that whole awkward silence moment, and Dexter has monologue. But they're sitting there, and Dexter isn't certain how he's going to connect or really communicate with Harrison, and he stumbles like through it. He offers to, like, he talks about, like, basically, wow, you sure have grown. It's been a decade. Yeah, thanks, Dad. Like, so he's stumbling around through this. I mean, it's got to be awkward. What do you say after not seeing your child for 10 years and then you're face to face? Like, did you prepare for that moment? Did you not prepare for that moment? If you did prepare for that moment, were the things you thought about preparing you for this moment? Like, it may not have been. It may have been different. So in this scenario, he is staring face to face with his son across the table, and he's like, I'll make you, want some blueberry pancakes? You used to love them. Well, he's not a little baby anymore. So, Harrison dismisses it. But the gesture, he makes a comment about, like, he's grown up since then. But the gesture is made. Like, Dexter's trying to go off of what he did know, what limited knowledge he has of who his son is now. Which doesn't mean that it's the same, because people change. And so he decides, okay, so you want that, fine. You want me to make you a sandwich? And Harrison's like, fine, yeah, he'll take the sandwich. And he is like scarfing down huge bites of it when he is eating it. And I'm not certain what the sandwich necessarily is, but it is like whatever protein is on there is this thick. No joke. And then there's the bread and maybe a slice of cheese or whatever. I don't know. But there's a big old hunk of like meat on there. I don't know if it's supposed to be ham. If that's ham, oh my gosh. Like, that is so much. I don't know. It's just a huge old hunk of meat when you look at it, and the kid is like taking big old like bites into it. So, um, he's starting to eat, and they start talking. And he's like, "So you're not dead?" And Dex says to him that he was sure that this was hard for Harrison, referring to finding out his dad's actually not dead. He's alive and well. And Harrison dunks on Dex with, "No, growing up without a dad, that was hard." Like, wow. Uh, he then goes on about how reading Dexter's letter to Hannah was brutal. Um, in the scene, Dexter's getting like verbally punched, and learning that Hannah McKay, if you recall, she had been entrusted with the care as stepmom to Harrison, even though they weren't married. Uh, Hannah McKay was Dexter's Black Widow, and she ended up, Harrison's 16 right now, and she ended up dying when he was 13 from pancreatic cancer. And you see this look of shock, as if Dexter was like punched or something was like sucked out of him. He's literally slack jawed. He's not like jaw to the floor, but he is slack jawed. He is stunned. You see the pain in his eyes, almost like he's not capable of processing that Hannah is no longer with them. And he does start to like lightly rock in place. You see the jaw, you just see the pain. And we find out that not only was Harrison living with Hannah, but that he'd been in Buenos Aires, and that in Argentina, for those of you who may not be good at geography. And the social worker there had taken him after she had passed and sent him to Miami, Florida. I'm guessing that is because he is technically a U.S. citizen. So why keep him in the Argentinian foster care system when he's an American citizen? Send him there. Like, I'm assuming that was the thought process that the writers were going through with this. So he says that he gets sent to the foster care in Miami, and he bounced around from home to home there because no one really wants a teenager. And then after 3 years of that, he just got tired of it and decided to go find Dex. So he's got this letter after Hannah has died. He's said that Hannah died, then this letter came. This is the order. There is a return address on the letter. He ends up saying that's how he found Dex. That Dex apparently had been in Oregon, a small town in Oregon. And he's like, "Do you know how hard it is to find a Jim Lindsay online?" And Dexter's thinking to himself, well, like, that's kind of the point, And because he didn't want to be found. So he'd found that Jim Lindsay, he goes to find Dexter in Oregon. He gets there, finds out from people locally that Dexter's actually already moved. He's gone. So he's trying online to find him, and somehow finds out Dexter is Jim Lindsay. He makes this connection somehow. They didn't quite state that part, but he does find out and verify through Fred Sr.'s Instagram account, because Jim Lindsay is on Fred Sr.'s bowling team, and he bowled a 300, and he was bragging about it on Instagram, which, for those of you who do not know, that is a perfect game. Okay, we're talking all strikes, all 10 frames, all 3 fragments of the 10th frame. 300. I used to bowl. So that's quite an accomplishment. So yeah, people should be bragging about that. So basically, because of Instagram, Harrison is able to confirm that this is in fact Dexter, and he proceeds about getting to Iron Lake to find Dex. And boom, that's where we're at. They're face to face, right? So, during this going on, Harrison asks why the name, what happened to Dexter Morgan. Dexter's monologuing with himself about about killing dozens of people, and that's why Dexter Morgan had to die. And how, you know, not only did he kill dozens of people, but he got Harrison. He's like, and I got your aunt Deb too. Um, Dex just tells him Dexter had to die. He says that it's a long story, but he promises that in the morning, because they need some rest, he'll explain it all in the morning. And he offers his own bed to Harrison and that he'll sleep on the couch, but Harrison declines. He's like, no, I'll be fine on the couch. He seems kind of slightly disconnected and distant, especially for a child that's like, F this, I'm just going to go find my dad. So maybe they're intentionally trying to set up the whole doubt for everybody about whether or not Harrison's following in Dexter's footprints. Then it cuts to he walks off to go to like the restroom, and we hear tapping on glass, just a rapping, just constant. And it gets harder and harder and harder. And it's Deb outside of the cabin window looking into the kitchen over the sink, and she's pounding on the glass with that tip of the bullet she had drawn out from her stomach with her bare fingers in Dexter's head. Granted, that was where I said it had the casing, because they left it in the casing. That would not happen. Which, Hollywood, shame on you. Teach firearm stuff correctly, at least. And if you're going to teach people about these things, do so correctly. Saying misinformation is horrible. So, she's using that same bullet, though. Now, keep in mind, we've seen that bullet twice. We're going to see it again in a moment. So she's rapping on the window, and then she just appears, and she's like behind him. She's got her arms around him. She's like attacking him from behind, and she's gutturally like screaming at him and gnashing her teeth. And she's saying that Dexter is a selfish psycho. She calls him emotionally handicapped, and uses this to warn Dex that, you know, if by some miracle Dexter doesn't end up fucking up his own son, that he or doesn't end up killing him, that he sure as well fuck him up. So she's like, if you don't kill him, you're gonna fuck him up forever. She's like, you need to get him gone. You need him to go away. That's why we came here. You need to stick to your routine. This is not gonna happen. And moments later, Dexter is out of this little, in his moment, fantasy dream connection where he's being assaulted by Deb, and she's shoving that bullet now back down into his mouth while screaming all this at him, because she's like, you were gonna fuck him up, you're gonna kill him, here's the bullet that you killed, and he didn't pull the trigger, but you killed me with, because it was, if y'all seen it, you seen it. Ugh. So she's doing that because she's just showing and expressing, like, you get everybody around you killed. This is what she was saying in the first episode, talking about everyone around you dies. Granted, it's not like Dokes was really a loss. He wasn't a good cop, so but so she's stressing this. Then we go to a cutscene. We get a few short little cutscenes that get sprinkled into this episode. Do you remember that girl at the Iron Lake Tavern where Angela and Dexter were line dancing at, and the girl's at the bar and she's trying to get the burger, and she wants to know how much it is without the fries, and it doesn't come with fries, and she's trying to just make sure she can afford her bus fare for out of town in the morning. So Angela pays for her burger, has it put on her tab with fries, gives the girl cash for bus fare. That girl, it's her. Sorry, I like a dry throat. I did not bring a drink. Well, we find her, and she's in this like small motel room, and she's got chocolate covered strawberries, and she's got a bottle of champagne, and she's just enjoying herself for a moment with the goodies, laying around just eating and drinking, just having a good little time. No TV, but just chilling there on her own, just a little happy kid, right? Okay, she's getting out of town. Why is someone that looks like they're not even 21 it has champagne? I don't know, but it pulls us away from that scene, and then we go into Dexter awakens, and he begins to keep his routine the next morning, as Deb had instructed him in the previous episode about stick to your routine. You know, this is what's going to keep you from killing. This is what's going to keep everyone from dying, because anyone who gets near you dies. So she's like, routine. So he's sticking to it. He looks over and Harrison's still asleep on the couch. He looks like he doesn't want to wake him up, so he doesn't approach him. He goes over to the calendar, marks the day off, and he begins to head out the door. When Jim walks outside from his cabin, because remember, again, Dexter is Jim Lindsay here, he walks out and he sees, his little blood trail area that he left. I'd mentioned at the end of the last podcast from before. And he's, sees that that's from where he brought Matt Caldwell back from where he'd killed the white deer to his shed to do his little kill room where he tarps it all up and all that, and then dismembers him. Afterwards, there's some splatter trail, and he's now just realizing this and making that connection of, ooh, I screwed up. I'm probably gonna have to go back and check things because there's probably more evidence. Oopsie, this is bad. Well, as he's shoveling all these things over, he's shoveling over like there's like 3 that we see right there, blood little droplets that are making up this like path trail of blood. So he's just flipping it over with the shovel because it's just snow, and he's kind of all hoping to hide it all, and he's thinking about like, teenagers sleep till noon, right? He's wondering if he's got enough time to do all this and cover everything up. And while this is going on, he actually like has a whole bunch of like LEOs start pulling up into his property, into his driveway. There's an ATV being hauled by one of the LEO law enforcement officer vehicles. And he says the most like Deb line ever. To me, it didn't feel like a Dexter line. It felt like something Deb would say. And he says, "This is one storm of fuck." And as he's, he'd just literally been shoveling blood chunks of snow over upside down to try and hide it. They roll up, and Chief Angela Bishop, his girlfriend, steps out, and she's all explaining that Matt Caldwell's gone missing. He'd been hunting in the woods near your cabin. Your location is basically the best to set up. We call it staging in search and rescue, but do staging for your base camp for it. And to prepare your search team. And she, she's explaining that, hey, this is located close to all the public hunting grounds nearby. And she was hoping that, she's hoping, and already being there, that's kind of rude, that Jim would be nice enough to allow this, which he did. Dex is all like, yeah, you can't be all, no, that doesn't make you look suspicious and shady, right? That doesn't. So, being the nice boyfriend and good guy that Jim Lindsay is, not Dexter Morgan, he offers this up. He explains that they can go over to, because it's really cold. It's snowing. It's Christmas time, and it's in Alaska. And so he tells them that, hey, the search crew can go over by the fire pit to keep warm. I'll make everybody breakfast. It's fine. So, he's just being this really gracious host. And then she asks him if she can go inside and use his kitchen table for her map stuff that she's doing. And he's like, oh yeah, sure, no problem. And then they start to go separate ways. He's going to be going out further onto his property doing whatever. She's walking towards his house, and he's all like, oh, hey, wait. And then she's turning to talk to him. He's like, hey, what? You were saying something? And out walks Harrison saying, what's going on? So she like whips her head back, looks at him, and is like, I'm Angela. And he's like, I'm Harrison. I'm Jim's son. Said she was trying to hide the shock, but she was not hiding the shock. But, she's an actress. She's supposed to show a little bit, right? So, she gets this face-to-face moment where she's reaching out and shaking hands with her boyfriend's son that she had no fucking clue about. Dexter he starts like making a mental note that this is one of the things that is now on his list of things that need to be cleaned up, which was something he started towards the end of the last episode, talking about things with crap with Matt. And then it was, oh, well, now I gotta clean up things with Harrison. That one big lie was the last thing he needed to clean up. And now it's, oh, add this to the list now that I've got to do. So now we cut to inside in the kitchen, and Angela's actually in the middle of like a conversation with Harrison, and it's not going on long. There's the brief exchange that we get is that, she asks like, why, about him traveling by himself, like, why are you doing this? and like, isn't your mother worried? And so Dex is walking in on this moment, hearing this, and he's like, hey, what's going on? And Harrison's all like, or he's like, what you talk about? And Harrison's like, Mom. And then she passed away. So Angela kind of gets a little bit more shocked, tries to, reel it back, dial it in, not freak out, because like that's shocking news to find out. You just met this person, and you're like, oh wow, that's horrible. I'm so sorry. Um, so she's still stunned, and she's stewing that she never knew her boyfriend had a kid, and so she does her best to contain herself and just be cordial and nice, because there's no reason to not be nice or cordial and polite to this kid. Hey, what's up, Dave? Killing her off was, yeah, kind of cheap. The way they did it, I admit I myself was not a fan of. I felt like they could have a little something more. I don't know. It felt like they took the easy way out. Thank you. I love my Slayer shirt, but it's kind of like in my artwork. I don't know if you've seen some of my older artwork that Solvent's sister did for me, but I'm regularly wearing Slayer, and so she actually put that on my artwork. The red flags were popping up last episode. Oh yeah. Oh. So I'm not even there yet. Like, there were some good dunks though. Like, Harrison's getting some good dunks in on Dex. Like, I'm just saying. So, he's doing this like Harrison's in the middle doing this tai chi in the kitchen, and we're having to find out that basically Dexter ends up like saying, hey, like, thank you, you handled that for me. She's all being like, trying to be nice and like, well, it's good to have you here, and you're gonna learn, or like, are you here for good? You're gonna really enjoy it here at Iron Lake. She's kind of asking questions, trying to feel things out, but while trying to seem nice and all, because she doesn't. No one wants to necessarily be mean off the jump. I don't presume that she's that kind of character. I think she actually is genuinely a nice person up front. So she's doing this, and she's pivoting around and saying like, hey, Harrison, you should meet my daughter, Audrey. You're about the same age. And she kind of just excuses herself because she's got to work. She's got the search to do, obviously. So Dex all like, hey, thanks, Harrison, for covering for me. Appreciate that. And Harrison's like, I didn't really do it for you. I was doing that for me. It was just a matter of, he's like, I don't want to cop all up in my business. Wow. Okay, well, you're 16. If that's already your mindset, whoo. I was like, that's... So you're curious about the villain? Yeah, I've been thinking about him too. Obviously he's the peeper guy. We're gonna get into that. I He's gonna obviously be one of the rich people, and by the setup of the room that we see, it reminded me of Old Boy a little bit. I have not seen Old Boy. I think I've got access to a DVD of it, but I don't have it. Like, I could watch it. I could see it. Wait, no, I think there was a reason I was gonna watch it, because there was like something revolving around SA, I think, if I remember correctly. Is Old Boy the one where he ends up like not knowingly banging his daughter? Like, I'm not cool. Yeah, like if that's that one, like I'll nah. I think that's that one. That may not be that one. I don't know. There's a movie where that's like one of the premises. Like, her father's got like some Stockholm syndrome thing, and she's been tending to him. Yeah, that's that one. Yeah, I don't want to. Nope. So I don't want to know why that even reminds you of Old Boy. Like, just don't. Silkwood shower. Oh, bathe me in Purell. It's nasty. So. Oh, at Dexter's cabin, the chief is giving out now the like search directives, and she's telling the like 2.5-week-old newbie like here on drone stuff, and he immediately crashes it into a freaking tree. Dex overhears a fellow Leo asking her about searching on the Seneca reservation land. She says that she's worked it out with them because they don't need civilians going in messing things up over there. That'd be bad. And that they have their own search party here. And the Seneca's going to do their own search party over there, and it'll be fine. They'll communicate. And we learn that they have that search party while Dexter's sitting there going, that white deer is on Seneca land. This is very bad. So he realizes not only did he miss that trail, but hey, I've probably left some stuff up there, and it's at Seneca. This is going to be really, really bad for me. So he offers up the use of his RTV. Oh man, I don't want to. Yeah, no, I don't know. See, Devil told me about that. I just can't do that. Like, Old Boy seems so gross to me. That whole. You find that at the end? Yeah, I would freak the fuck. That'd be like, you eat the best hamburger of your life ever, and then someone's like, yeah, it's human meat. No, I don't want. So I could not. I don't want to watch Old Boy. I could never sit. Oh my Jesus. Like, ugh. So I don't know how people do it. But, so Dex is again, or Jim again, is being super duper nice and helpful. Like, here, I'm gonna make you fucking breakfast. Yeah, you can use my property. Here, stay warm by my campfire over here, the fire pit. Oh, sure. Like, you know what? I'm gonna take my RTV up because that's really rough terrain right up where you're gonna be going through. I can go search up there so much easier and faster. I'm a good guy. Good old Jim. Good old reliable Jim. Well, he's using it conveniently for a chance to literally like ride over a literal blood trail where he's like Harrison's oblivious to them. He's kind of looking around. Dexter's looking down while driving, and Harrison kind of makes a comment about the basic shit driving. Dex is like, "Oh, you know, it's really rocky over here," and he really is. He's like going, trying to get blood spot over there, blood spot over here, you know, and he's trying to just like smoosh him down. So Dex is just trying to cover his tracks, and then they start having a bit of a conversation. Let me see. Boop, 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 boop. I gotta scroll on my notes. Yep. They discuss how like new Dexter's relationship is with Angela, and we found out it's actually pretty new, and that they talk about like people get lost in the woods all the time because Harrison's like, "You really think we're gonna find them here?" And he's all like, "People get lost here in the woods all the time." So as that had just been said by Dexter, Harrison's like, "Hey, what's that?" And they see the white deer that Matt had shot right in front of Dex. It's like that close, could have hit Dex. Well, that whole "you almost killed me" part, I lost it. You never ever. I know that poor white deer, and you do see him, but not like that. Like, well, no, like that. Yeah, well, I mean, if you saw Sunday's episode, if you saw episode 2, you saw that deer again in a whole different way. Because you will see him being processed. So he's dodging it, and he gets there, and they're at this white deer, and he's like, "Hey, this could potentially be a crime scene. This might be poaching. Like, you need to go up and get the chief and let her know that we found this, and I'm gonna hang back here while you go up there, Harrison. And I'm gonna make sure that nobody comes around and like disturbs the scene. Like, I've got this. You go do that. Can you do this?" And he's like, "Yeah, sure. Like, yeah, Dad, I'll go get it." He's not all like that, but he's like, "Yeah, I'll go do that." Like, just all these things that Dexter's saying make perfect sense and throw no red flags. So why question anything? So Harrison leaves in the RTV and goes to retrieve Angela. And again, like I said, we're gonna have those flashbacks. Remember that girl again that I was talking about? Well, we're seeing like the bathroom door in her small hotel room, and we're hearing puking sounds and her crying. She comes out all disheveled, and she's cussing the champagne for making her sick. And that's it. That's all we get as she stumbles like towards the bath. Now we're back to, remember that oil tycoon from the last episode? The one that Audrey, the daughter of the police chief, remember her pouring out that hot cocoa? Hi, cinnamon girl. Well, that oil tycoon, because that 2.5-week-old newbie cop smashed that drone in less than like 5 seconds into a tree. Well, Angela gets to go be nice to that guy. Just one of her favorite people. As remember, they'd said earlier that these people are all rich assholes. So, she's going because she needs to make use of the helicopter. They need this for the search. So, she heads up there, and he does offer the helicopter up to her without batting an eye. It's not an issue for him. Like, it's something. Sure, you can have it now. Like, it'd be like, "Here, you want to pet my cat? Like, here, pet her. You like, here, have my helicopter. Go ahead." And then he offers up his pilot, who's like been an Army Ranger. Not that it has anything to do with piloting, but whatever, details, Hollywood details, right? So, he asked then, "Hey, is that young girl that was outside the cafe? Audrey, is that your daughter?" And then he said, her generation only sees things in black and white. He's talking about the lack of gray, that, you're either completely good or you're always a villain, that there's no in between. And that, they don't see all of his charity work that the evil oil money has been doing for Iron Lake and the Seneca people with, medical clinics and supplies and holiday food and things like that. And Angela, she just seems very unimpressed that this rich asshole you know, that's what she sees him as. She's like, you're just a rich asshole, but she's like, whatever, you know, she's trying to make nice because she needs to get this job done and find Matt. Now we cut to Deb laughing out in the woods, laughing her ass off as Dexter is whipping out of a backpack a rag and a bottle of fucking Windex to clean a rock. Because remember in episode 1 when he this time isn't fantasizing about it, but actually makes good on butt striking Matt in the face? Well, Matt's head goes bonk off of a rock and smashed in bits and blood and residue are there. So he's Windexing it off because that's what you do. And then he chucks the rock. Hey, Babs. Aw, I love you too, girl. Thank you so much for hopping in. So he chucks the rock. She is just laughing her ass off at him. Like, what are you doing with this? You think that's going to do anything? She's telling Dex that Harrison has Dexter's brain and that she reminds Dex how his son would be better off without him, and Dexter's ignoring her, and he's just running off in the woods, and you kind of see a bit of a roadway up there, and it leads to the highway, and he pulls out a bag, conveniently, of a bloodied glove that was Matt's, and he plants it. And what he's doing there is he's planting it to make it seem like, you know, Matt's kind of run off. So Dexter leaves that and starts to backtrack because apparently nobody checks for footprints in the snow, I guess. I don't know. Just anyway. So Dexter's tracks back, and as he gets back, he's back at the side of the deer, and he's like, "Oh, good, people around. You know, they're tainting the site." That's what he wants. You know, like F it all up. Don't let any of the evidence be remaining. You know, that's not what he wants. He wants it to be gone. No evidence, so that way he can get away with it. And these people that are surrounding the white deer are the part of the people that are searching, that are of the Seneca search team. And the only person, they did not name any of these individuals from this group yet. They may have names on IMDb, but I'm not going in and giving myself spoilers. I'm trying to keep it because I want to see it all live as it goes. But the lead guy, so lead Seneca man, I don't know, is that what I should call him? That'd be kind of messed up. But he's there, and Dex approaches and mentions that, you know, they're discussing the deer being left like that, and he's like, what a waste. You know, because it's a waste of a life, it's a waste of the meat, you know, it was like no use came from it. It'd been sitting there for over a day, dead. So it's a waste. And one man is like, who would do such a thing? And that was the kind of like lead Seneca guy. And Dex answers him with a question, asking, you know, what about Matt Caldwell? Would he do it? You know, he's trying to leave this like little mustard seed that maybe Matt's the one that killed the deer. So soon after this exchange is when Chief shows up, because again, Harrison went off to go get her. So her and crew show up, and she starts having this exchange with the Seneca guy, and he starts telling her about how he bets Matt was the one that poached this deer, and she's all, and then hightailed it out of town. This is his theory. He just hopped up real that quick, just from Dexter planting that little seed there. And she's all like, hey, there's no evidence to support that, you know, Matt has done this, so we need to process this scene and, you know, continue on with the search. Like, we're going with the status quo right now. It's not changing anything. And then the Seneca man, he gets really upset, and he wants to know why they're continuing to search for the rich Caldwells while their girls continue to go missing, and they're told runaways always come back. And he says, you know, after Iris, you should know. We don't know who Iris is. We don't get to find out much about Iris. But this was directed to Angela. So, since it's not divulged yet whom Iris is to Angela, I'm thinking she might be like a little sister. That she was like responsible for watching over. I don't think she was her child biologically. So the tensions are running really, really high. Obviously, you know, he's mad, he's bringing up Iris and stuff like that. When you know the tensions are running high, they continue on with the search, and Angela recognizes, you know, Harrison as being great, and, you know, help let them know about the deer, which was all Dexter's plan anyway, just so he could fix the crime scene, so good on him for actually doing what his person asked him to do. Because I don't know if I'd initially say Dexter is his dad, other than being biologically his dad at this point. Because he's been gone for a decade. Well, the others are searching around and securing the scene up, and they discover the glove that Dexter had planted. And Jim's all like, yeah, I think that was one of the, I remember seeing him, I think, with that. And Brian's all like, yeah, I definitely saw him. Brian is Dexter's boss, manager guy at Fred's Fish and Outdoor, or Fish and Game. And, so they're like, hey, she's like, we're going to, send this in and let forensics process this then. Because there was like some smudging on it that was blood, and they wanted to test on that. So then Bishop goes over and she's observing the deer, and she's noticing there's no exit wound. And ever helpful Jim all announces about, hey, I sold some Matt some ammo at the store, and I could like get the records and receipts and tell you what type it was, and if you can find a slug in there since there's no exit wound, like maybe you can use that to confirm and match up. Well, gosh, he's so helpful with that. Mind you, that's not how they actually confirm things. It's inside the barrel. That's your fingerprint to the gun. Okay, it's not like, yes, this matches this, because 45 45, 9 is 9, like be any gun. So oh, that was another thing. We're probably getting into that part later. So he says he's glad that he stumbled on the deer, and he offered the use of his deer sled to the chief, so that way they could take it off to the butcher, so they could process it, dig this bullet out, and see what they can do forensic wise to figure things out. And she jokes if he keeps being so helpful that she's gonna have to deputize him. And then she's encouraging Harrison to join the search with the high school kids, and saying that, he can meet kids his own age, and, with being the new kid. And when walking away to get the sled for Angela, he asks why Dex isn't a cop anymore. And so Dex is explaining he wasn't a cop, and he just worked with them. And then he quit because, you see this these things day after day, and it's just too much. And he's happier now, and Harrison's questioning, how are you happier selling night crawlers? They return, and then they have him return to the cabin with the deer on the sled. So they push some time forward with this. It's packed up on the sled, and the high schoolers are now arriving, and they tend to go, and then Dexter and Harrison go off to tend to the chickens and the pig and the goats, and they start having an exchange. Harrison wanted to know the name of Dexter's goat, the black one that I'd mentioned in the previous podcast about how Dexter was very affectionate towards it, and that's unusual for a serial killer, because one of the many ways to profile them is they usually, not always, but usually tend to have a history of animal cruelty and abuse. So showing affection is not atypical of a serial killer, but also showing affection towards an animal is not atypical of a serial killer. So in a way, it was kind of like showing that Dexter had, at least for a while, changed. So he's all like, I haven't really gotten around to giving a proper name. I just call it Goat. So he's like, well, that's it. I just call it Goat. Harrison starts then sharing about, they had all these farm animals down in Argentina with Hannah, and Dexter, goes, well, hey, what was the name of your goat? Because he mentioned they'd had goats, and he said that it was Vincent Van Goat. So Dexter's like, well, hey, why don't we name him Vincent Van Goat the second? And that seems to be kind of like his way to almost like bond or replace this moment. I know he's not like really replacing, but like he's trying to relate to a moment that he wasn't in, that was being shared with him within the moment they were currently in. That's the better way to say it. So Dexter then excuses himself because he's got to go to the store to get that receipt with the ammo and all that for the information for the police chief. And he offers for Harrison to go hang out inside the cabin because, now that the high schoolers are there, he's like, I know how awkward it can be being around people, and how or new people, and how hard it was for me in high school too. And Harrison just dunks on him again. He's all like, I survived the last 10 years without you, Jim. I think I can go 2 more hours. Damn, like, damn, this is your son just dunking on you. Fuck, Dex. Then Dex goes to his truck to like leave and go to the store to get this done. And inside he's there and he's imagining Deb, and they're having this like debate about how Jim Lindsay isn't different from Dexter Morgan, that she's seeing an awful lot of fucking Dexter right now and not really any Jim, and that he hasn't changed, that he's not this better good person. He's got to go back to the routine. He's got to push Harrison away because anyone close to him is going to fucking die. So they're going off in the truck, and she's going off on him for enjoying getting away with murder, for being a serial killer, and how he's going to fail his son 1,000 times. So Dexter just loses it and starts screaming, not like screaming words, but like, ah! And there's this girl that's looking at him, and she's smoking a joint and looking at him, and then he's looking back at her, and it's kind of like a oh shit moment. And then she's looking back at him, he's looking back at her, and she throws up a peace sign and smiles while smoking. He throws up a peace sign and smiles and dips. Then it cuts. Well, wait, hold on. Let me double check my notes. Yeah. Oh, okay. No, he's leaving, and then Harrison goes up. He had been with Audrey. We'd seen them walk up as Dexter goes over to the truck to have his little moment with Deb and freak out. Well, we see Harrison and Audrey having an exchange, and we're learning that Audrey doesn't think that their parents will be together very long because her mom's married to her job. And she offers for Harrison to join them, which was Zach and another boy. She introduces them to and says about how they're both dumb, and she's kind of like a semi-bully to her friends, but kind of in a ribbing way. But she's like, come along with us. She introduces them, trying to like make things chill. Then it flashes back for a quick moment again to that girl in that hotel room, and we see her laying passed out in her bed, not feeling well, and we can see that she's being observed from a camera while she's passed out. And we get flashes of her like this, like it's just short little seconds. It's not long. It's not even only take a full minute when we're seeing her. So the 3 scenes that I've described her in, just very short little moments. But you see really more of, not necessarily completely, you don't get to see full face, but you get to see more than just like the eyeball. You get to see a little bit more of this part, not just the eyeball of the guy. They're showing a little bit more hints and pieces of the face. We saw more of his hand this time. We saw a little bit of like finger in the beginning. Like they're showing little bits more. She's being watched clearly. It was kind of almost hinted before, but now it's obvious. She's fucking being watched. We can tell there's the computer. We're seeing the camera screen of him looking at her. So we're seeing these things. We can confirm this. Now it's going right back to that local butcher. The deer's hung up and it's being processed, and Dex feigning discomfort about blood, and one of the little LEO guys there, he's all kind of like going along with it, because he's always got to keep up these appearances. The butcher's getting into the deer, and he begins saying about how the hunter either didn't know what he was doing, or he's a piss poor shot, and basically the placement of the bullet shattered the shoulder, and it sent bone fragments everywhere throughout the deer, which is not a clean good kill. It's really, really bad. But he's able to retrieve out the bullet, which was supposed to be a hollow point, and he pulls it out, and it's not even mushroomed. That's another Hollywood error. Like, Anyway, they expand on impact. They would mushroom out. But he pulls this out, and, he gives it over to the chief so she can give it to forensics, well, ballistics, technically. And she's looking at it, and she's observing it, and she's saying that to her, that it's a hollow point 7mm mag. It is not a magnum. There's no way an AR that is chambered in 5.56 is firing this. There's 2 different calibers. It does not work. Hollywood, get your shit together. I'm just saying, just get your shit together, please. Okay. It's not hard. If Mary Kate Andrews can do it, and she's a chick lit author, there's no excuse for Hollywood writers. I'm sorry. You guys have the funding and the means. Don't be lazy. All right? Okay. Sorry. Rant over. Um, so Dex, you know, is all like, yeah, that matches the receipt. And he goes into detail about the brand and all that, like, because, you know, that does it. So she's sending up to ballistics as it should be to be dealt with. And she's like, oh, hey, we need to talk. Uh-oh. That's never good. Never in the history of we need to talk has that ever really been a good thing. We all know this. Well, now we're going off to the high schoolers. We see them going off and searching, and they end up at a small summer campground that is empty because it's winter, because it's not summer, you know? And it's definitely not summer being that it's Alaskan or snow on the ground. That's definitely not going to be doable. It's not like here in the South. So, the kids believe that, you know, well, fuck the rich boy, and they want to go goof around, so they start to try to break in to one of the cabins, and they're like, hey, these cabins all have new locks on the doors. So the idiots in the Leatherman jackets are trying to open the door and fail to like smash it open and everything. Harrison's like, hold up, I got this. And he pops open the lock with his knife, not by jimmying the lock, but he's going back behind the plating and wedging the knife so that way it pops the screws loose from the actual door itself, removes the plate off, and the lock's not there anymore. You can open the door, go right on in. So then Audrey looks at him. She comments about, my mom is really isn't going to like you. But she's saying that in a way like she's impressed, but like, oh, my mom's gonna hate your ass. So now we're back at Dexter's cabin, and Angela and him are talking about things, and she's saying how glad she is that Harrison's there. And it's here that we learn that Audrey is actually not Angela's biological daughter, that, you know, she has adopted her. And Dexter's all like, well, you know, you've got experience in searching for people if you're trying to find her mom. And she's so like, you know, she admits that, you know, yeah, I adopted her, and no, I didn't look for her mom because fuck anyone that abandons their own baby. Ooh, Dex, burn. So she then is trying to bond with Dexter, saying that, you know, they can discuss parenting and pressures, worry, guilt, sharing, so on and so forth. And Dex and Angela bond, you know, over the whole, all parents really have to do is just show up. They bond over this moment of all parents have to really do is just show up. She then plans, you know, like, hey, you know, you gotta think about school, you know, you gotta think about getting him some clothes, a car, prepping him for college. And then she says, just wait till he starts dating. Yeah, your daughter. He's gonna start dating your daughter, Angela. And ew. Because if you two are, and then, ew. Just ew. Ew, that's, no. So, but she does tell him, you know, hey, Dex, get a cot. Start with that, you know, and that Audrey and her friends are going to take great care of him. Don't worry about it. Oh, and Audrey and her friends are taking great care of Harrison. Yeah, they're trying to get him high. It's here that we learned that Harrison declines not to get high because, not that he's straight edge, but because he got clean a couple years ago. So that means he got clean at the age of 14. So somewhere, presumably between the ages of 13 and 14, he fell into drug addiction, which is horrible, horrific, tragic, and really, really sad. Also setting him up for possibly being a serial killer like his father. Not that Dexter ever had a drug addiction, because he didn't, but some serial killers then, you know, have addictions. Well, they're sitting there and they're kind of just talking, and he's like, I got into these things. Look, he shared that, like, my mom died when I was young, and my stepmom, you know, just died of cancer. And one of the kids was like going back to ask him more about his mom. Like, we didn't say how your mom died when you were young. Like, what happened? And Harrison kind of just like spaces out, tunes it out, and is all like, well, I'm cold. I'm going to go get some firewood. Like, he just kind of dismisses himself from the conversation. And during his absence, the boys decide to go through Harrison's bag to try to find things to learn more about him. Audrey's trying to stop them. And they didn't really discover much. They found some drawings, not really anything else, just some drawings in like a little notebook. They didn't find the letter in there that Harrison had spoken about or anything like that. They didn't find any pictures. It was just the drawings he had done. And so Harrison notices this, and he's hearing some of this go on as he's looking through the window on his way back in with the firewood. So he intentionally hits a thing to make some noise so they hear him on the side coming in. So they scurry off back to their places and, pretend like, they were in there, never moved, and weren't in his stuff, looking around. And he also plays along as if nothing had happened, as if he hadn't observed them through the window and heard some of them, like, going through his shit. Now we flash back to the girl in the hotel room again. She finally awakens, and she begins to look for her phone to no avail. She starts making her way to the door of her room, and she realizes that there's no internal doorknob of this wooden door. So she's beating on it, knocking on it, screaming, and she's, like, hey, let me out. Can anyone hear me? Like, she wants out. She's looking around the room now, panicking because no one's hearing her, and there's no doorknob for her to get out. She can't find her phone, and she's looking around the room. She notices the camera where she's been being observed from that we had seen. So she grabs a small chair and takes it up under to get a closer look, and she's looking up at it, and she notices that, because it's kind of like its base is circular and then it's angled. Okay, so it's angled looking at her like this, and then it's affixed to this round base that's attached to the ceiling, and right behind it, right here, is written on the backside of the curve of the base in red letters, "You're already dead." Cuts away from her. Like, you see her face, like, real quick from that, and then gone. Just, that's it. That's all we see of her this episode. It's pretty fucked. So when she was blaming the champagne, that's probably where she ate. Them strawberries were probably poisoned with. I mean, maybe they put it into the champagne, but probably not. Then we go back to the cabin where good old helpful Jim is feeding the search team hamburgers. And Chief arrives to say that, she believes Matt did leave town and is shutting down the search for him. She tells Dex that the forensics team has, matched the blood on those gloves, that it was the deer's blood, and that one of Matt's friends, she didn't say whom, so I'm assuming the one that they were calling, Dickface, Bill, I'm assuming it was him, but they said one of Matt's friends confirmed that, yes, that is his glove. So Dex, was congratulating her for cracking the case, and she says, it's not closed yet. She still has to get in touch with Matt's father. Chief offers for Dexter to bring Harrison over for dinner. Not necessarily that night, but she's like, hey, you should come over for dinner and bring Harrison. And this is all going on as the high schoolers are returning. She's talking about, like, corn chowder or something. Ew. But, like, it's a family recipe, and she's talking about that, and he's like, yeah, sure, great, sounds like, Matt would like that. And they're all coming up, and she's all like, wait, hold on, let me get to my notes. Oh yeah, so as they're coming up, she goes, but the dinner will have to be after Audrey's, done being grounded. And Audrey's all mad and has a little tip with her and asks her firmly, how many times do I have to tell you I'm not Iris? And she gets really mad. She leaves with one of the team boys, Zach, and he's all like, oh no, I don't want to go. She's like, take me home. And he's like, no, I don't want to. She might arrest me. And she's like, look, she's not going to arrest you. She's only being a hard ass on me because she's only overbearing on me. It has nothing to do with you. And she starts walking up to the vehicle. Like, basically, she's like saying, nut up. So she hauls off, and then Angela's apologizing that Jim and Harrison had to witness this, and Dex is trying to empathize and show understanding. So he kind of parrots her back, and he says, parenting is just learning as you go, right? You'll be okay. And now we're inside the cabin, and Dex has a cot set up, and it's in a small room for Harrison, and they're discussing, like, how long he's gonna be there. And Harrison said, I came to I was here for some answers. And he's like, why did you leave? Was it because of the note that you sent Hannah? It said, reach out to me if Harrison shows any dark tendencies. And he asked, what does that mean? What was so wrong with him that Dex not only left, but he also faked his own death to hide from him? What darkness that Dexter had seen in him? He's assuming that the darkness was already, like, what darkness do you see in me? What are you talking about? Because if you could think about it, like, reading that note, how would that come across to the kid? That's pretty fucked up. So he's asking all these questions about that, and Dexter's saying, Dex says it wasn't Harrison that he was worried about or scared about, but that it was him. He was scared of his demons in him. He's always had these demons, and he's scared that he would mess up Harrison and pass it on to him. And so he went away because of what Dexter is, and not because of who Harrison is. And Harrison says that he doesn't understand. So Dex is explaining how, hey, look, I was in a really dark place after losing Rita, your mom. And then, you know, I lost my sister Deb, and all that death, whatever he's classifying as all that death, he got lost and thought Harrison would thrive and he honestly believed that Harrison was going to thrive in Argentina with Hannah, and he told him this, and how good she had been to Harrison, and that walking away from Harrison was the hardest thing that Dexter had ever done. And that he regretted it because he never imagined Harrison would be left alone. Obviously, he hadn't expected that Hannah would pass away early. And Hannah had told Harrison that Dexter was dead. And Harrison tells Dexter that he kept a photo of Dexter at his bedside every night, crying himself to sleep until, you know, Hannah had passed and he'd found this letter. And he admits that, you know, he was angry. And Dexter says, of course you were. You know, because even a neat little monster like Dexter recognizes why logically Harrison would be angry. So he offers to be there for Harrison now. And Harrison asks if Dexter really means that. And he's like, you know, of course he does. And if Harrison's willing to take the chance of getting screwed up, you know, he would, you know, he's like, if you're willing to take the chance of me screwing you up. And Harrison gets mad and he rebukes that. And he's like, you know, stop saying this, you know, stop saying and acting like you're some evil person, that all of my memories of you were good, and that the worst thing you ever did was leave me. So, it's at this point that Harrison agrees, you know, he's gonna stay for a while. He doesn't say how long, he says a while. And Dex said that, you know, in the morning they would discuss getting Harrison set up at school, but not over blueberry pancakes, kind of trying to like make a joke, but like, I see you, I recognize you, I'm respecting that, you know, you're older now, and I've got to learn who you are now as a 16-year-old young man versus well, they said they had last seen him when he was 5, so 5-year-old child. You know, he's not that 5-year-old little boy anymore, so it's different. He's all grown up. He's trying to acknowledge that he recognizes this. And Harrison's all like, yeah, well, you know, I wouldn't rule out regular pancakes. So Dexter's like, you know, okay, fine, we'll do this over regular pancakes in the morning and discuss this. He goes outside and he takes Angela a cup of coffee. And this is when Harrison goes off to his room, and Deb is like outside, standing there next to Dex at the fire pit at night now, chastising Dexter about, you don't have to enjoy the wind so much, you smug fuck. And he's just, honestly, he is smiling his ass off. Dexter's really, really smiling, just enjoying, you know, these people are packing up, search team's going, it's good now, and he can enjoy working on building this better relationship with Harrison because he wants to protect him like Harry protected Dexter. And then a black Ford pulls up with Kurt Caldwell looking for Angela, asking her if she's found Matt. She says that, you know, hey, we've tried contacting you for hours, and she explains that they've found this evidence that connects Matt to poaching this deer on the Seneca reservation land, and then he skips town and to avoid trouble. And Kurt says, you know, nah, that's some bullshit. Like, that poaching, are you kidding me? He'd have called me over that. That's some, like, nothing. Like, what are you talking about? That's nothing to him. You know, they're rich people. That's nothing. That's like that's like jaywalking to him, okay? So he's like, no. Matt would have called me. And even if he was in serious trouble, Matt still would have called me. Like, this is my son. No, I know my son. My son would have called me. Like, you need to be out here searching for him. Don't call off the search. Go find him. And he's insisting. And he gets to the point that he's only insisting that they keep searching for Matt. He's like, look, he's gonna freeze out here and die overnight. He doesn't deserve this. Like, he may not be perfect, and he may have made some mistakes, but he doesn't deserve to die like that. Like, please keep searching for him. Don't leave him out to the elements to freeze to death and be a Matt popsicle. He then goes on to insist that everybody needed to stand up for his family. Because his family has always stood up for them by donating the fire engines to the volunteer fire department, by sponsoring the Harvest Fest every year, For when Fred Senior's Fred shop, the Fred Fish and Game, their roof collapsed. He helped pay for those repairs. Um, he was saying how half of your kids have worked at my truck stop. He was rallying the search party with a cry of this like, this is Iron Lake and we look out for each other, so please, I'm begging you, do not give up on my son now when he needs us the most. And so, as much as the chief like doesn't want to, she agrees to go ahead and let the search continue on through the night, and Kurt offers up whatever resources that the search team needs. Not a problem, just ask, he's got it. And he walks up and he's like, hey, Jim, is this your son? And so he gets to meet Harrison. And so we've got Jim, Dexter, Harrison, his son, Chief Angela Bishop, Dexter's girlfriend, and the chief of Iron Lake, and then the rich guy here. And he's saying, Matt's out there. I know it. I'm going to find him if it's the last thing I do. No stone will go unturned. And the camera pans down through the fire pit, through the dirt, through the stone below to an AR and bag body parts with Matt's head inside. And that's where they leave us. So far, I'm still going with my original options on the season finale, how it may end. And my theories at the moment still are, they've not changed. There's a few ways they could still go. They haven't given me enough really yet to kind of see which path I feel they'll fork to. But the ways I feel they may end this are, Dexter's either going to get killed by Harrison. Dexter and his son are going to team up and be like, serial killer team. Dexter may kill his son. The chief may catch Dexter because of clues. And Dexter, from Dexter's, so the guy that we're seeing watch these girls is going to be our main villain, obviously. And that's obviously who Dexter is going to end up going, yep, you fit the profile, I'm murdering you. It may be just like as Deb walked in and found him with the Doomsday Killer, we may have another one of these moments where his girlfriend, the chief of police of Iron Lake, walks in on Dexter getting ready or already having killed this guy that's been making these girls disappear, that's been watching the one girl that we've seen in this episode. We may see her catch him like in the act in that moment. Also, I predict that there might be one more thing I've added. This one's a little far-fetched, but I'm like, I'm going to throw this one in there. So I did add this one. It's the only new thing, but I'm not really banking on it because I think it would be kind of weird. But there was a moment where it seemed like they were almost like lining Harrison up to maybe potentially more follow in Deb's footsteps or Harry's footsteps and be more like a cop. So there is maybe potentiality that Dexter's gonna get caught by Harrison, and Harrison's gonna like turn him into the police, and it's gonna end up inspiring Harrison to grow up to be a cop to stop people like that or something. That one I don't really quite, because I don't think the fans would enjoy that as much, and this is to make up for how they did us with Deb, because what they did to her burial, it wasn't the killing of Deb, it was how they had Dex treat her just as if she was anybody else that fit the profile, anybody else that was a horrible person. Deb was not a horrible person. She did not deserve the sea burial that she received. That's why they're doing all of this, to make up for that. So we damn well expect better. So I'm hoping like they won't do that, but we'll see. So those are my theories for now on this. Thank you so very much for hanging out with me tonight. I hope you were able to have some fun with this, and that hopefully I didn't spoil anything for this for you. If you haven't seen it, I'm sorry, but I gave you over 24 hours. I do my best. That's why I do podcasts on Tuesdays. And in fact, this episode got pushed way back because I did the serial killer one earlier this afternoon with my guest host, Hellshrew. So there's that. You'll be able to find that here on Twitch, and it will be, if you're watching this in the future, over on YouTube in a couple days. I am here on Twitch in the evening streaming video games for Tuesdays and Thursdays, and I do my video podcast on Tuesdays as well over here on Twitch. The rest of the times you will be able to find me over on YouTube for the rest of the days of the week. or on my other social medias when I'm not here live. So just thank you all so much for coming out. Give me your thoughts. Like if you guys have some like your own ideas of how they're gonna end this finale for the series, because this is supposed to be the end. This is supposed to be, we're only getting the one. The New Blood is season 9. This is it. It was intentionally being done as a one and done to make up for this. So let me know how you think they're gonna end it. Do you think that, you know, Dexter's gonna get caught? Do you think that Dexter will die? Do you think that Harrison may follow in Dexter's footsteps? Or do you think maybe he'll become a cop like Deb and Harry? So, you know, let me know what you think. I'd love to hear you guys tell me about it. So you can always, you know, DM me, send me a message. If you're watching this over on YouTube, leave a comment, give it a like, just let me know. Or reach out to me on Instagram. Next Tuesday, PYCAST will be covering the Dexter deep dive, but I will also be going into, hopefully, some other content things that are coming up. I do have things in the work for some podcasts that involve, serial killers that have been saved, prolific serial killers. There is going to be, not everything I do is true crime, I swear. There is going to be a cold case from Malden, South Carolina, which is near Greenville. It's a suburb, that is going to air on Cold Justice on Oxygen sometime in December. So whatever Tuesday follows that airing of that episode, that'll be the content for that podcast. So there's always going to be something new that I'm going to be putting out here fresh for you guys. So every Tuesday there's going to be something new, but for right now I will be doing a lot of the Dexter deep dive. So there is always going to be a spoiler. That's why I put it in the title. When I go live, if you tapped that heart to get the notifications from Twitch when I'm live, when I am streaming podcast revolving around the deep dive for Dexter, I do put in there that there is a spoiler alert, because I don't want anyone to walk into this and go, I did not need to know that yet. I want you to have that chance. That's why I wait till Tuesday, so you have some time to get caught up if life got up to you or you were just too busy at work or whatever and you didn't get around to it. I want you to have the opportunity, so when we come here we can discuss it. Mom, do you love me? I have one kid, and I doubt it's you, because my kid's not allowed to be on the internet. So what happens on the internet stays on the internet. But thank you guys so much for being here. Again, PYCAST is on Tuesdays, normally earlier than this, but this was a double dose day. So go back and check out that episode earlier if you missed it with my special guest, Hellshrew. And also, I will be here on Tuesdays and Thursdays, so I'll catch you guys back on Twitch on Thursday. But tomorrow, you'll find me over doing Shipment and Call of Duty on YouTube. So thank you so much for coming out, and I will see you guys in the next one. You have a good night. Bye. Mwah!